Many horse champions retire unbeaten, but only one has done it with 14 flawless victories and a time form rating of 147, the highest ever recorded. In this video, we reveal the story of Frankel, his rise, his power, and the moments that define his legend. Every stride he took and every race he won remind the world what true greatness is. Stay tuned. His story will leave you in awe of what perfection truly means. But first, let's start where every legend begins: the birth of a champion. On February 11, 2008, a new foal stood at Banstead Manor Stud under Judd Monty Farms. His name was Frankel. From day one, everything about him drew attention. His sire, Galileo, carried the strength and stamina of a Derby champion. His dam, Kind, by Danehill, brought speed and class. Together, they produced a colt bred for power, precision, and endurance. Handlers noticed his presence right away. He didn't just walk, he strode with rhythm and intent, as if he already understood the ground beneath him. His frame was balanced, his muscles perfectly formed, and his energy seemed endless. They described him as electric, a colt with fire in his veins, but calm in his mind. For Prince Khalid Abdullah, the man behind Judd Monty, this was more than another promising foal. It was the result of years of careful breeding, a deliberate pursuit of excellence. Many horses were fast, some were tough, but this one had something more: composure, focus, and confidence. No one could predict he'd finish his career unbeaten, yet even then, there was a sense that racing had just met something special. A colt destined to change the sport forever. Every great horse needs a great trainer. Frankel found his in a man who needed saving just as much as he did. Meet Sir Henry, the man who found redemption in a racehorse. For decades, one man ruled British racing with quiet confidence and unmatched success. His horses won classics, his charm captivated crowds, and his name was synonymous with victory. But by the early 2000s, everything had changed. Illness drained his strength, personal troubles clouded his life, and a long drought of winners left many believing his time had passed. The sport that once celebrated him had almost forgotten him. Then along came Frankel, a fiery young colt with more power than polish. From their first encounter, something clicked. The trainer found purpose again, and the horse found direction. Where others might have tried to tame Frankel's energy, he chose to guide it. With patience, intuition, and wisdom born of experience, he molded chaos into brilliance. Each race told two stories: one of an unbeaten horse, and one of a man rediscovering life through him. Every thundering finish and roaring crowd breathed strength back into the trainer, who had nearly faded away. By the time Frankel crossed his final finish line, undefeated and untouchable, his trainer had completed a comeback of his own. Together, they didn't just dominate the sport. They reminded the world that greatness can rise again, even when everyone thinks it's gone. Now that the team was complete, it was time to see if all that promise could turn into power on the track. Let's go back to where it all began: Frankel's early wins. Frankel's first season on the track was nothing short of explosive. His debut came at Newmarket on August 13, 2010, in the Maiden Stakes. The ground was soft, and he broke slowly, tucked behind the field. Then, in the final furlongs, he unleashed a surge that left everyone stunned, beating future King George VI winner Nathaniel with ease. It wasn't just a win, it was a warning. A month later at Doncaster, in the Frank Whittle Condition Stakes, he turned that promise into dominance. Starting as the heavy favorite, he toyed with his two rivals before sprinting away to win by a jaw-dropping 13 lengths. The racing world began to pay attention. Then came the Royal Lodge Stakes at Ascot. Facing a tougher company, Frankel simply destroyed them, winning by 10 lengths without ever being pushed. Commentators called him a future great, and for once the hype felt justified. He ended his 2-year-old season at Newmarket in the Group 1 Dewhurst Stakes, a race packed with unbeaten stars like Dream Ahead and Samid. Despite a rough start and veering near the finish, he powered home to remain undefeated. 4 races, 4 wins, each more commanding than the last. By season's end, Britain wasn't just watching a rising star. It had found its next phenomenon. With an unbeaten start behind him, the next question was clear. Could he dominate again as a 3-year-old? Now this was the warm-up before history. The Greenham Stakes. Frankel returned to the track in April 2011 for the Greenham Stakes at Newbury. And the anticipation was massive. He was unbeaten in 4 starts. But this was his first run as a 3-year-old. The season that would define him. Lined up against him was Acceleration, a talented colt who would later become one of Europe's top milers. Most horses would have needed a race to find their rhythm after the winter break, but not Frankel. Right from the start, he looked sharper, stronger, and more focused. He settled behind the leaders, cruising with an ease that only special horses have. Then, in the final furlongs, Tom Queally nudged him forward, and Frankel exploded. His acceleration was clean and devastating, leaving Acceleration struggling to keep up. The winning margin was 4 lengths, but it could have been more. Queally never had to reach for the whip. For Sir Henry Cecil, it was exactly what he needed to see. He called it a perfect rehearsal for the Guineas. And he was right. The performance had power and discipline in equal measure, a sign that the fiery colt from last year had matured into a composed, professional racehorse. As Frankel crossed the line, one thought echoed through the stands. Newmarket about to happen. When the gates opened, Frankel shot out like a bullet. Within seconds, he was 10 lengths clear of the field. By the halfway mark, the lead had stretched to 15 lengths, leaving commentators stunned and rivals helpless. There was no strategy behind it, only pure instinct. Tom Queally let him roll, and the crowd gasped as they realized they were watching something extraordinary. Some thought he'd gone too fast, that he'd fade before the finish. Frankel never eased up. He kept driving forward with relentless speed. He crossed the line 6 lengths clear, the widest Guineas margin since Tudor Minstrel's victory in 1947. Commentators shouted, "Logic just left the building." It was the perfect description of a race that defied every racing rule. Trainers, jockeys, and fans around the world were speechless. This wasn't just dominance, it was defiance. In less than 2 minutes, Frankel had redrawn the boundaries of what a thoroughbred could do. And from that day forward, his name became global racing's benchmark for perfection. But even legends make mistakes. Here's where Frankel learned that winning isn't always easy. The St. James's Palace Stakes. The cheers were deafening at Royal Ascot on June 14, 2011, as the unbeaten Frankel walked into the gates for the St. James's Palace Stakes. Everyone expected another effortless demolition, a repeat of the 2000 Guineas. But what they got instead was a heart-stopping reminder that even greatness can flirt with disaster. The moment the gates flew open, Frankel charged like a horse possessed. He tore ahead far too early, leaving the rest of the field gasping for air. For most of the race, it looked like another exhibition of raw brilliance, until the final furlong. From behind, Zoffany and Dubawi Gold began to surge, closing the gap with frightening speed. The crowd's excitement turned to nervous silence as the lead shrank with every stride. But Frankel refused to be caught. Digging deep, he held on by just 3/4 of a length. His narrowest victory ever. Critics called it reckless and questioned his pacing. Sir Henry Cecil saw something else: growth. He knew Frankel was learning restraint and control. That day wasn't about dominance, it was about discipline. From then on, Frankel ran with fire and purpose. After learning to control his fire, Frankel was ready to face his biggest rival yet. This one wasn't just a race. It was a duel for the crown, the Sussex Stakes. Goodwood, 2011 delivered one of the most anticipated showdowns in modern racing. Frankel versus Canford Cliffs, the defending champion miler. It was a battle between generations, the young powerhouse taking on the seasoned star. From the outset, Frankel took charge, gliding into his rhythm with effortless confidence. Canford Cliffs tried to match him, stride for stride, but the difference in class became painfully clear. As they hit the final furlong, Frankel shifted gears, and the race turned into an exhibition. He stormed ahead, leaving Canford Cliffs trailing 5 lengths behind. The crowd's roar said it all. They had just witnessed dominance on a different level. Afterward, an emotional Sir Henry Cecil summed it up with one line: "He's the best horse I've ever seen." Frankel's rating soared to 135, officially crowning him the world's top-rated racehorse and the sport's new benchmark for greatness. He had proven dominance. Now it was time to prove dynasty. And this was the moment Frankel became royalty. The Queen Elizabeth II Stakes. Every now and then, a race feels bigger than the sport itself. The Queen Elizabeth II Stakes in 2011 was one of those moments. The day the world stopped to see if perfection could be beaten. Frankel walked onto the Ascot turf like a prizefighter entering the ring, calm, coiled, and terrifyingly confident. Across from him stood heavyweights: Excelebration, Immortal Verse, Poet's Voice, all brilliant, but all about to learn what unstoppable really looked like. From the break, his half-brother Bullet Train launched forward, setting a merciless pace. Frankel sat right behind, silent and stalking. Then, with 2 furlongs left, Queally gave the smallest cue and the crowd erupted. Frankel ignited like a jet engine, tearing away from the field as if gravity no longer applied. He crossed the line 4 lengths ahead, ears pricked, untouched by effort. Timeform scored him 143, one of the highest ratings ever recorded. 9 races, 9 wins, not a single defeat. The colt who had once been called wild had become something else entirely, the undisputed king of world racing. A new year came, and so did new doubts. Could Frankel stay perfect one more season? If you thought you'd seen peak Frankel, 2012 proved there was still another level. By 2012, Frankel had become more than a racehorse. He was a phenomenon wrapped in muscle and precision. Whispers of an injury had cast doubt over his return, but the Lock-and-Jay Stakes at Newbury silenced every rumor. Facing his old rival Excelebration, he cruised past with effortless control, stretching 5 lengths clear. It wasn't a comeback. It was a warning that Frankel was stronger than ever. Then came the Queen Anne Stakes at Royal Ascot, and what followed is still talked about as one of the greatest performances in racing history. From the moment he hit stride, the race was over. He powered down the straight, clocking speeds of over 42 miles per hour, and crossed the line 11 lengths ahead of a field that looked frozen in time. Timeform responded with a record-shattering 147 rating, the highest ever awarded. When Frankel returned to Goodwood for the Sussex Stakes, the outcome was inevitable. He became the first horse to win it twice, brushing aside far with calm authority. Every stride was smooth, every victory clinical. 12 races, 12 wins, absolute perfection. By then, Frankel wasn't racing opponents anymore. He was racing history, and he was still unbeaten. After conquering every mile, there was only one challenge left: distance. And now, it was time to find out. Could Frankel handle more than a mile? York 2012 marked a new chapter in Frankel's story, his first test beyond a mile. Many wondered if the unbeaten champion could stretch his brilliance over 10 furlongs in the Juddmonte International Stakes. Against Farr and St. Nicholas Abbey, Frankel made a tough test look effortless. Settled patiently early on, he waited until Queally gave the smallest cue, and then unleashed that trademark surge. Within seconds, he had turned a competitive race into a one-horse show, charging clear to win by 7 commanding lengths. The crowd at York, swollen by 55% more spectators than the previous year, erupted in disbelief. Watching from the stands, a frail but proud Sir Henry Cecil beamed, later saying, "He made me feel 20 years younger." It wasn't just another victory. It was Frankel proving that greatness had no limits. And then came the race that would close the book on perfection. This was it, the grand finale, the Champion Stakes at Ascot. The Champion Stakes at Ascot was meant to be a farewell. By the final furlongs, Frankel's power took over. He surged forward through the slop, chest heaving, hooves pounding, reclaiming control as only he could. He crossed the line 1 3/4 lengths clear, unbeaten and unbroken. The stands erupted with cheers, tears, and disbelief. On the sidelines, a frail Sir Henry Cecil smiled through emotion. His masterpiece complete. 14 starts, 14 victories, perfect in every sense. 10 Group 1 titles. In the mud and the rain, Frankel didn't just end his career, he sealed his immortality. When the dust settled, only one thing remained: emotion. What followed was pure emotion. Frankel's final goodbye. After his final triumph at Ascot, Frankel wasn't let off the track. He was celebrated. The crowd stood in awe as he made one last slow parade before the grandstand, his coat glistening under the damp autumn sky. Cameras flashed, voices cracked, and even hardened racing fans wiped away tears. Tom Queally, still in the saddle, leaned forward and whispered, "I cherished every second. I knew it was the last time." For Sir Henry Cecil, the victory was deeply personal. Weak from illness but smiling proudly, he called Frankel a once-in-a-lifetime horse. To Prince Khalid Abdullah, it was the fulfillment of a dream, the perfect racehorse, born, bred, and raised on his own land. In that moment, Frankel represented more than victory. He was redemption for a fading trainer, pride for an owner, and joy for an entire sport. If you want to meet more of those legends, watch 15 Racehorses Who Never Lost a Single Race. The link is up on your screen. Even then, Frankel's story didn't end there. His legacy was just getting started. Frankel returned to Banstead Manor Stud, the quiet farm where his story first began. Retirement didn't mean the end. It was the start of a new chapter. As a stallion, he passed on the same power, balance, and drive that made him unbeatable. His foals showed early signs of brilliance. They moved smoothly, ran with purpose, and fought to win, just like their father. Soon, his name began to appear in the pedigrees of champions. Cracksman, Soul Stirring, Hurricane Lane, Adayar, and Snow Lantern all carried his fire. Each one proved that Frankel's gift could not be taught. It was born in them. By 2025, his record as a sire was unmatched. He had produced over 17 Group 1 winners worldwide. Breeders praised him for blending Galileo's stamina with his own raw speed and courage. Today, Frankel still stands proud at Banstead Manor. He no longer races, but his spirit lives on through his children. Every powerful stride they take reminds the world of the horse that never lost its way. Before we close, one question still lingers. What truly defines greatness? Greatness is a word often used in racing, but few truly define it. Frankel did. He never lost, never faltered, and never once gave less than everything he had. Across 14 races, he faced champions, rough ground, and intense pressure, yet every time he found another gear. His final record tells one story, but the way he won tells another. It wasn't only about speed. It was about heart, courage, and consistency at a level the sport had never seen. Under Sir Henry Cecil's patient hand and Tom Queally's quiet confidence, Frankel became more than a racehorse. He became a testament to what a perfect balance between power and control can achieve. Even as Cecil fought illness, the horse gave him purpose and pride, a reason to keep going. Timeform rated him 147, the highest in history, but no number can capture his impact. Fans still talk about the roar at Ascot, the surge at Newmarket, and the feeling that they were watching something rare, something pure. Frankel's story is not about trophies or statistics. It's about excellence without compromise. Some horses win races. Frankel changed what winning means and left perfection behind in his wake. And that's it. The legendary of Frankel horse who never lost and left the world breathless every time he ran. 14 races, 14 flawless victories with perfect starts and finishes. But don't go anywhere yet. The next video is just as electric. It's the story of Justify, the last horse to win the Triple Crown. You don't want to miss it.